Hello everyone, welcome to AKS IAS. In this session, we'll discuss about the IR related questions which appeared recently in the mains 2022. As you are aware, at least some 4 questions were there this year with respect to this, which is approximately 45 to 60 marks of yours. And as we keep repeatedly informing you that IR in mains will be purely on the basis of current affairs, UPSC this time has also asked questions from current affairs, guys. So don't waste your time in reading unnecessary books. If you can follow the current affairs and the newspaper, that must be more than enough. And this time the questions are also in the expected form. So let's quickly look into those questions. I won't be discussing the exact answers, mainly because we'll give a broader structure. It's very easy for an individual to stand outside, do some research work and then try to tell you these are the answers or these are the points that must be present in the answer. But a student who has gone into the examination hall with the knowledge that he would have gained through the newspapers and all, he would be ready with certain points. So how to manage those points and what must be the key and the structure of the answer we'll try to discuss. So now, if you look at this, the question is, India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Discuss India's role in the recent crisis in Sri Lanka in the light of the preceding statement. Everyone was aware that there will be a question on Sri Lanka for sure. And what would be the question was the one which people were actually thinking. But look at the type of question that UPSC has asked. It's very simple and straightforward. There are two things here. India's role in recent crisis. And you need to elaborate the point by talking about India being an age-old friend. So here, when we look at it, the first most important terminology that I am interested in, the age-old friend, where you need to talk about the historical and cultural relations that exist from the time of Buddhism. Right? I'm just giving you, then I'll tell the structure. Now, India's role in the recent crisis. What exactly does this mean? I need to talk about what are all the important problems that happened in the recent crisis. See, I'll divide it into two words. One is recent crisis, another one is India's role. Fine? Both these are extremely important for me. Now, when I look at recent crisis, one, you're all aware that it was economic crisis. Correct? Within the economic crisis, one was with respect to forex reserves. Second one was with respect to inflation. Third one was with respect to GDP. Correct? And the second important issue was to raise funds or to get loans. How to raise funds? You need to go for IMF support or India must provide the aid. Fine? So guys, what Sri Lanka was undergoing was these two, which we could see. But the broader context of this also lies in political crisis, guys. When the country was undergoing economic crisis, it was also undergoing political crisis, which was a very, very serious issue for Sri Lanka. The president had to run away from the country, right? See, whenever we think of a question, first try to bring the broader perspectives to this. And there was an issue of Chinese debt and Chinese military, which was trying to come to Hambantota port. Right? Now, you see this. If you people elaborate these points, then what is the question? The question is, what is the recent crisis in Sri Lanka? Some answers I was saying, like after exam, some people were discussing and all. See, this is the problem. What I have written on the board is purely the recent crisis. This is not the answer. And age old friend means you need to talk from Buddhism till the recent time. That means historically, whenever there is a problem, India has always been there. Whenever there is a political crisis, whenever there is terrorism crisis, whenever there is aid required during tsunami, anytime you take, India was always there. That is the meaning of the age old friend here. And this is what? This is recent crisis. This is not answer. That is not answer. But where the key word is, see, I'll make a question. If they tell, discuss Indo-Sri Lankan relations from the past, this argument you should give. What is recent Sri Lankan crisis? You need to talk about this. But if the question is, what is India's role in the recent crisis? So this is a different aspect altogether. Now, I need to talk about, there is economic crisis in Sri Lanka because of shortages of forex reserves, inflation, and slowing economy or GDP. So, what India did? India, being Sri Lanka's friend right from the beginning, whenever Sri Lanka had economic crisis, India was the one which always went and stood with Sri Lanka. Recently also, whenever Sri Lanka needed any sort of investment, then it was India which used to do. If possible, you can also say India is one of the largest trading partner with Sri Lanka, with whom we had preferential trade agreements also before. Now, given India's previous record, India now also went into these cases. What are these? With respect to forex reserves, it is being observed that India has given more than $5 billion worth, $5 billion worth investments, materials to Sri Lanka. To reduce inflation, India helped in supplying some of the basic materials to Sri Lanka. If you check, India was supplying oil to Sri Lanka even though Sri Lanka did not pay for the oil. And tourism is one of the most important thing, and India post-COVID has tried to increase this. Along with that, we are also planning for other free trade agreements which would benefit Sri Lanka. So, my answer must not be about crisis, but my answer must be mostly focused on what India has done. So guys, what I would say in the introduction, what my focus will be is to tell that whenever Sri Lanka has problem, it is India which has come to the rescue. Now also Sri Lanka has some of the problems which India is trying to help as an age-old friend. In the economic crisis, where there are these issues, India is providing them $5 billion inflation goods, GDP through free trade agreement and all. This is one. Second, raise funds or loans. That is, Sri Lanka is in need of money, so India is talking on behalf of Sri Lanka with IMF and other organizations and helping Sri Lanka to get the funds on time. At the same time, India is also providing significant amount in the form of aid, not only for the development of Sri Lanka but also for Tamil dominated regions. So this is the second point that I need to talk. You should not say what problem Sri Lanka is facing, just that must be only in one line, but my focus must be on what India is doing. And then when I talk about the political crisis, so political crisis was mostly with respect to what was happening with Rajapakse government and all. India remained neutral and India respected the sovereignty of Sri Lanka and people's verdict. So what happened? India did not interfere, send its army, nor commented, nor allowed Rajapakse to stay in India, nor we asked him to come, because we wanted the public to take care of their own country. But externally we tried to ensure that others won't interfere in Sri Lanka, and also there is more transfer of power that was happening, and India immediately recognized the government, which was accepted by the parliament. So this is the most important thing. Remember guys, political crisis anywhere in the world, if it is there, your answers must focus towards sovereignty, not on anything else. You should not interfere in that country, but you should try to resolve the crisis by accepting the people's verdict in a fair manner. Now, when you look at the Chinese debt and Chinese military, especially the Hambantota case, India has tried to ensure that in Western corridor along with Japan, we are trying to construct so that the dependency of Sri Lanka on China reduces. At the same time, we did not increase the issue of Hambantota, mainly because this is not the time for Sri Lanka to vary much about what was happening. We trust in them and we had requested them not to allow. So these are some of the points that you write, and your conclusion will be not only these, right? Under SARC, BIMSTEC and other organizations, India is trying to help Sri Lanka to overcome all the crises. Fine. So that must be some sort of structure that would be expected. Do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like the SARC? What are the similarities and dissimilarities between the two? How are Indian foreign policy objectives realized by forming this new organization? Such a beautiful question, directly picked from the interview of EAM, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. You can actually see his transcripts about comparing BIMSTEC and SARC. So the question is directly picked from his debate. So let's see, let me give you the overall view, guys. Any regional organization is tried to make to ensure that the relationship between the countries in the region would improve, differences is actually reduced. Unfortunately, in SARC, no bilateral issues were discussed, and within the SARC, there was no economic agreements and all much. Connectivity was never a possibility in SARC, mainly because Pakistan never allowed India to use Pakistan to reach to Central Asia or any other part. So connectivity was one issue which it never allowed. Trade agreements never occurred successfully. Third most important point that you need to highlight about the SARC is not consistently meeting. Always there is a problem. I think the last one was somewhere in 2014. Till now they did not meet properly, mainly because of Pakistan issue. We are writing the answer from India point of view. So you need to talk about the cross-border terrorism, which has become a very significant issue, and it was opposed not only by India but Afghanistan, Bangladesh and many other countries criticized Pakistan for its continuous support to terrorist organizations, guys. So given these problems, India long back, many people criticized. You look at European Union, you look at ASEAN, These things are working so effectively. Why not SARC? Many countries told that maybe it is because of India, because India is the only country which has border with everyone. Why isn't it performing well? At that time, India argued that it is not because of me, but it is because of Pakistan. Our western neighbor is creating trouble to us. So if we leave them and make any other organization, we will be in a position to develop. That came to the formation of what we call as BIMSTEC, which is for Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Nepal, and Bhutan. So you have 7 countries which are part of BIMSTEC, and you have 8 countries which are part of SARC. So the fundamental difference between SARC and BIMSTEC is, in SARC you have Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Maldives, whereas in BIMSTEC you do not have these 3, and apart from that you have Myanmar, Thailand. So this is one difference. Fine. You need to talk about the countries that are actually present. So apart from this, in both the organizations, bilateral issues are not discussed at the multilateral level, and it is not a military organization, neither SARC nor BIMSTEC. And in both the organizations, like trade and all is yet to proceed. But when we talk about BIMSTEC, the dissimilarities, we need to discuss about how exactly BIMSTEC is focused more upon connectivity. For example, the core of BIMSTEC is based upon India, Myanmar, Thailand connectivity project. Now this we are planning to connect it with BBIN network of SARC. So India, Myanmar, Thailand, BBIN, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. If these can come together, then the connectivity project would work very well. And the second important project that we are looking for is the Kaladan multinodal project, where India's Mizoram will be linked with Sitwe port through Kaladan river. So these 2 issues become extremely important for us. So I'm just trying to give you the overview first, then I'll arrange them accordingly. So now, do you think BIMSTEC is a parallel organization, and how are Indian foreign policy objectives realized? So yes, now, what is India's exact foreign policy? Just remember one thing, any country, if it has to grow globally, it is possible only when its house is in order. SARC as an organization was not in order mainly because of Pakistan, but now with BIMSTEC the things are almost in the order. Second important thing, only when you can bring your neighbors together, and if you can utilize the potential within this region, you will try to attract other countries and other investments, which India will be able to do whenever we are going for this complete connectivity projects. Third most important thing for us is about connecting, SARC with what we call as ASEAN. BIMSTEC actually acts as what you call bridge between SARC on one side and ASEAN on the other side. Then India's northeast can be used effectively to connect with China, to connect with Myanmar, to connect with Thailand. Next, India is also focusing on Indo-Pacific region, right? This Indo-Pacific region includes Bay of Bengal, South China Sea and others, where if India has to be good, then BIMSTEC plays a very, very important role. Fine. So, what is India's goal today? One, to achieve peace regionally. Second, to improve connectivity. Third, to improve economy. And then these will come together and ensure that we have a global stature. So now when you look at these, look at the question. Do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like the SARC? Yes, BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like the SARC because it is not countering SARC. Don't say that it is countering the SARC. You can say that SARC has been almost stagnant because of Pakistan. BIMSTEC can be progressive because the issues between the countries are not very major when it comes to BIMSTEC. And today in SARC, even Afghanistan is under the control of Taliban. So we are not aware how to engage them. So because of that as well, we can say that BIMSTEC is better compared to SARC. Then you talk about the similarities and dissimilarities that I gave you, where I was talking about the countries which are present, and both are not military, it is purely economic and cultural. Especially SARC was more cultural than economic. BIMSTEC is going to be cultural plus economic. And then talk about the dissimilarities by talking about, like, the connectivity projects and the money that is being invested in these projects, but such projects are not there in SARC. For example, BBIN has to split from SARC mainly because Pakistan did not accept for movement, and recently also our Prime Minister was talking about that. So guys, how will I2U2 grouping transform India's position in global politics? As you are aware, I2U2, India, Israel, UAE, US. How are these countries coming together and what is India's position? Now, first important aspect is global politics. When we say, what are the major areas for global politics? One is Indo-Pacific region. Second important thing is about the West Asian region, right? Third is Europe. So, at any point of time, if you look, India is actively present in, Indo-Pacific region through Quad. If you look at East China Sea and South China Sea, India is significantly present in the region through Quad. But our weakness was in West Asia, because in that Shia Sunni fight, India never took any step closer. And now when there is crisis in the region, and if India is part of this crisis, especially with global powers like US and Israel, that itself shows India will actively involve in the global issues. One of the major criticism for India was, where are you present globally apart from South Asia? Right? India was never thinking beyond South Asia. For example, if there is Nepal issue, if there was Bhutan issue, Sri Lanka, Maldives, everyone were looking at India for the solution. But when it comes to South China Sea or other things, no one will think that India can give a solution. But today, US and many other countries believe that yes, India is a solution for most of the problems that happen. Whether it is Quad, whether it is Indo-Japan speaking about free and open Indo-Pacific, right? India is mandatory. At the same time, when you look, when it comes to the Central Asia region, through SCO, India is trying to connect. India has INSTC. India has what we call as Ashgabat agreement. So India is trying to connect with Central Asia. But India was extremely neutral when it comes to West Asia because of our own reasons. What were the reasons? Indian diaspora is there, oil prices, if they put ban on us, it will be an issue. We won't get oil on time, right? And remittances will be affected. We were thinking of all these. But today, by interfering or being part of I2U2, we are going to take stance on certain issues. And if that happens, globally, when you are talking about me being a representative in United Nations or so, then it would be different. And second thing, guys, this is neither countering Russia nor US. This is not a fight between US and Russia. This is just about bringing Israel to the world's forefront. We want people to accept Israel as a country. So we made UAE to accept Israel under Abraham Accord. We are also convincing other countries to recognize Israel and make Israel an extremely important player. And if this can happen, see, there are three issues in the world. One is North Korea, South Korea, Jammu Kashmir, and third is the Palestine issue. So North Korea, South Korea is purely Chinese issue, right? And Jammu Kashmir is our own issue. When it comes to Palestine, like, if India can interfere and support one or the other groups and bring peace in the region, then India's leadership will be accepted. Because recently, I think India has also accepted to give weapons to Armenia. Like, many people were praising about this. So all these things try to show that our global positioning is increasing day by day. So guys, this was actually from an article in IDSA. You can actually read them, but I'm just trying to give the gist of what the argument was all about. For this, I would expect you to first write what exactly is I2U2 and what are the objectives of it, and you try to talk about all other regional groupings where India is already there and where India was weak, and how this position will make India better than others. Now, the fourth most important thing is clean energy is the order of the day. Describe briefly India's changing policy towards climate change in various international fora in the context of geopolitics. Because there was a time when India was more worried about what we call as reducing carbon dioxide emissions. We were extremely happy when it came to Kyoto Protocol, but after Paris climate deal, we were extremely worried. Why? Because India also was given certain, targets to be achieved. But this is where the brain of the people will come. And just trust me, when a country is in crisis, when people are in crisis, then only they get the best solutions. Now, if you look, India has accepted, we didn't go back like US by saying that we can't do this, but India used this as an opportunity for promoting our geopolitical aspects. For example, you take the case of clean energy. When I say clean energy, it can be nuclear energy, it can be wind energy, it can also be replacing coal with natural gas. Remember guys, clean energy always doesn't mean least polluting or zero pollution only. Reducing the bad fuel with good fuel is also a sort of clean energy. Now, when it comes to solar energy, under UNFCCC, Paris, India was speaking about International Solar Alliance. And this question was in the news mainly because of one sun, one earth, one grid, which India was trying to talk with respect to the world. We are trying to unite all the tropical countries and we are trying to produce electricity, and that we are trying to sell to other countries as well. So with this, all the tropical countries like Africa, right, South Asia, Southeast Asia to some extent, like with the help of France, India is trying to ensure that we produce electricity under these aspects. Second important thing is about the nuclear energy. You are all aware that India got NSG waiver, and once India got NSG waiver with almost all the countries today, the discussion is purely about the uranium reserves that are actually present. And India is trying to talk to the world, India is trying to be good with the world, especially with most parts of the countries which we never met as well. Today, after 40-50 years, just for uranium and other purposes, India has developed good relations with countries like Australia, countries like Mongolia and other areas, and we are trying to also enter into NSG. And then comes what we call as gas. At least a small paragraph about the gas, because today geopolitics is mostly associated with this. India is planning for pipelines, underwater pipelines, to get natural gas from different parts of the world so that our dependency on coal and other things reduces, and we will be in a position to go for clean energy. Guys, with respect to geopolitics, this is the answer, guys. If the same question is asked in geography, I would have told you, you write bioenergy, you write about wind energy, you write about tidal energy, but thus doesn't fit in this answer, mainly because that has nothing to do with the word geopolitics. The biggest problem with students is, irrespective of which chapter or which subject they are writing questions, they just keep on writing the answers from the point of this word. Okay, clean energy is there, so try to write as many points as possible. That's not correct, and that's not the way to write answers as well. Please look at which subject it is, and in that subject, look what is the focus point, and also look the keywords. Based upon that, you can come to the conclusions, guys. So whatever we speak outside the examination hall is completely different from a student sitting in the examination hall thinking about the question and answering them in 6 to 7 minutes, right? There will be always a point, I could have thought like this, I could have written like this, but just remember, the broader the context, if you can understand the keywords anytime, it would be easier. So at AKS IAS, we will be having answer writing sessions, right? So the students will be told what are the keywords that you need to pick, which questions to take, how to answer. Every day we keep posting questions just to ensure, out of the box, if any question comes, you people are in a position to write. So most of the students who are writing them regularly, getting it evaluated from us, they can see improvement in themselves. So you can also keep writing, send it to us. Our mentors will be there, we all will be helping you to improve your answers as well, guys. Thank you.